We got anything on board?
Okay. Now,
Is mine working?
Yeah, I hear
You hear me?
Yeah. Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Good. Praise the Lord. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm all right. So, this is our Sunday school forum. My name is Brother Robert Curlin. I'll let y'all introduce yourselves.
I'm Elder Herman Oglesby.
you. I am Timothy Sappho.
And we'll be bringing our forum to you guys today. We're kind of doing a change of direction. This being Black History Month, we decided we can kind of open up the conversation with kind of some of the issues facing us as Black people, and just kind of get a feel of the climate, how things are going now. So actually, Pastor introduced a series of videos to us that he wanted us to watch, and I thought they were really interesting because they kind of break down our past and they kind of bring up how it's affecting us in our present and hopefully what we can do to improve our future. So I think they're getting that video pulled up now, but as they do that, is there anything you guys have noticed or want to speak on as far as with Black history or anything?
Yeah. No, 'cause I do. I've always felt this way for quite some time, is that we got Black history, right? And one of the things that kind of used to irritate me was when it gets to this month, like the one show that they used to always show on TV was Roots. And so for me, I'm one of those that, all right, some people may call me a conspiracy theory, that's fine, I'll take that. But I look at TV as like, all right, we got a screen, this is a television program, so it's programming our minds. Why is it that every time we get to Black History Month, the only thing they want to show us about our history is us being slaves and being beaten? So that's where my issue comes with Black History Month. I feel like this, I'm Black 365 days a year, so why do I have to wait until this month to celebrate what I am?
I agree with a brother here.
Thank you, Jesus. No, I'm just.
Once we agree, and don't make it no habit. No, but I agree with that. We are Black 365 days a year, and I'm a much older Black than this young Black right here, so I've seen a few things. I didn't see slavery, but I've seen some results of slavery.
Yes.
Some of my closer ancestors, great-grandfathers and mothers, were in fact slaves. But the thing for me about Black history is I'm wondering about more now. It's not so much just Black history in the United States and in America, but going all the way back. I was talking to a brother yesterday. We talk about all the problems that we have, Blacks have now and today, when Black people are the original human beings. We started history and education and all these great talents and everything and abilities that we had in the beginning. How did we get to this place that we're at now? And that's kind of been on my mind lately, How did we get here? Where did we lose our great prestige and our great knowledge and wisdom and our ability to create and build things? Where did we lose it? Did they steal it from us? What happened? And so I think a little bit more investigation into that. I know I've seen stuff in the United States. I know some of the evil and wickedness that has taken place here.
Absolutely.
And so I can deal with it. But overall, what happened?
I definitely believe it was stolen. I definitely believe it was stolen.
They stole our stuff.
And not only that, I look at it from a standpoint too of like, all right, for the things that we do know about, from your George Washington Carvers to Thurgood Marshall to, I feel like us as a people as well, we've kind of gotten away from that prestige as well. And what I mean from that is like, okay, we understand now that when you talk about famous people. As far as blacks right now, we don't necessarily look at it from a educational standpoint. I feel like now it's more of an entertainment standpoint. So it's your athletes, your singers, your you know what I mean, your dancers and things like that. But back then, I feel like we looked at. Don't get me wrong, we had those entertainers, but we also focused on focused on prestige positions as well. So I feel like that's something that as generations begin to continue to grow, that we kind of got away from. That's just my personal opinion. What you got to think?
No, I agree. I think you're talking about like entertainment and things like that. When you watch movies, it's rare that you see a black doctor or a black astronaut, and I'm saying that because I know there's the movie with what's the girl's name?
Oh, you talking about the with the ladies that worked at NASA?
Yeah.
Hidden Figures or something.
Yeah,
like that?
yeah, okay, that movie, but that's rare. You know, you don't really see a lot of movies like that. So a lot of times we don't know that there were black doctors or black lawyers. Like you said, you know, Thurgood Marshall. I learned about him in school, but I know he's not the only black lawyer, you know?
Yeah.
But it's like, that's all we hear about. So it's not just what was stolen from us, but it's also what's not shown to us now. So it's like we don't even know where to start when it comes to trying to figure out our history or where we came from. You know, if you want to trace back your ancestry, you can only go a couple hundred years, and then it kind of falls off. We don't know 1,000 years where I come from, you know. So that, from it not being there to it's not shown to us today, to we ourselves not valuing ourselves, I feel like that's a major part of it too. And you put all those together, and that's where we are today.
You know, real quick on what part of what you're saying is that when a people don't know their history, you know, the Europeans and other countries, they would travel to Africa, Constantinople, and was it Timbuktu and different places where they had all this knowledge and wisdom. These Africans had all this knowledge and wisdom about astronomy and medicine and architecture and stuff like that. Black people knew this. They knew how to write and record history. So for us in America, we're kind of at a disadvantage because some of us were taken out of our native habitat and we lost that connection. But there are Africans that are alive today that didn't have that separation. What about all those people in Ghana and Nigeria and in the Congo and everything like that? They still in touch. They still have a touch with that history.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
And so what should we do? Research, go back and look, you know, or just accept the status quo. You know, I tell this real quick because I like this. It's real funny. A group of my co-workers, this was back years ago. They were in this ancestry thing, just a big thing about the ancestry. And so it's me and a couple white ladies. Oh yeah, so my ancestors are back in so. Other white lady, oh, my ancestors was Irish and everything like that. Then they said,
No, I didn't mean to do that, my fault.
they said, Herbert, what about yours? I just looked at her and said, are you kidding? You know where mine was and came back from slavery. I don't know where they are. And they looked out and they scratched there like that. But you know, they just took it for granted that, okay, you know, I knew where my ancestors. No, I don't, because, you know, the slave thing came in there. I was brought over here, my people were brought over here, you know, not by choice. I don't know who they are. You know, I go back maybe to my great-grandfather or something like that, but I can't go back like that. And, you know, I'm glad they felt a certain kind of way. You know, not that they should be embarrassed or feel bad about it or anything like that, but to acknowledge that it's a real thing, that here's a group of people in America today when we talk about how free and everything we are, that were robbed of all that they knew and had.
Yes.
You know. Yeah. You know, we don't know our names, where we came from, our ancestors, our parents were split apart. You know, that's a bad situation. And you know, Black history, let's just don't, for me, let's don't keep it nice, you know. I had a dream. Everybody had a dream. I had a dream all the time, you know. That's all good and everything like that. But it's more to that. You know, when they hated Martin Luther King, back then, now it's safe to lift him up and say, oh yeah, I do Martin Luther King. Yeah, okay. Well, you didn't know the struggle. You didn't know when those dogs were put out on those people and they was biting them. They put those water holes on them and they didn't have food to eat and places to stay. What about that? Let's tell the whole truth, the whole history. And I know you want to get to your video, right?
I do. I kind of want to.
I tell you shouldn't get.
No, you good. I kind of want to introduce that. You know what's interesting about what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
During that time, that was around the 50s and 60s, right?
Mm-hmm.
We were kind of going like this, right? Mm-hmm. Until that time that you're talking about. And then right after, when we were, I guess you can say, given freedom or liberties, that's when it started going like this. Mm-hmm. After that. We were more successful during those times you're talking about than we were after when they stopped. Okay, that's it. That's the intro. All right, you can play it. Yes, something to think about, y'all. Yes, something to think about. Yeah. Yeah.
Amen. We need to turn the lights on.
Yeah, we need to turn something.
Yeah.
Sound, everything.
While we getting it together though, here's my question to that.
Things that they know.
I'll bring it back up.
Bring it up later. Yeah, you got it.
Oh no, we're good. Sorry.
The things that they thought were going to help did not help, and in many cases made things much worse. One would be the welfare state. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. This might be that road. It's covered thick with good intentions. In the mid-1960s and throughout the 70s and early 80s, federal and state governments poured immense energy and well over $1 trillion into the task of relieving poverty and promoting equality. The result, a complete failure for many blacks of the lower end of the economic spectrum. The future looks more hopeless today than it did 20 years ago.
As of 1960, 2/3 of all Black American children were living with both parents. That declined over the years until only 1/3 were living with both parents in 1995. Among Black families in poverty, 85% of the children had no father present. Close quote. So it's not the legacy of slavery that destroys the African American.
It's the legacy of the welfare state.
And why does the welfare state dissolve the family structure?
For one thing, it makes it unnecessary for fathers to support their offspring. And in fact, it makes it counterproductive in many cases. A very poor man who might be able to support his family realizes his family would be better off without him.
Lyndon Johnson said people knocking on doors. I lived in the 60s, and people knocked on doors, apprising women of their availability to welfare, provided there was no man in the house. And we went from 25% of blacks being born outside the wedlock in 65 to 75% right now.
95% of the men in our federal prison system have no relationship with their dad.
If you look at the breakdown of the black family, and matter of fact, maybe breakdown is a poor term to use. The black family does not form in the first place. You're creating a situation where if a man stays there, the government will not give the woman welfare, and if he leaves, it will. And so they're paying. When you pay people not to get married, more people don't get married.
1890, 1900, you look at census reports. A black kid, believe it or not, was slightly more likely to be born to a nuclear intact family than a white kid. Even during slavery, a black kid was more likely to be born under a roof with his biological mother and biological father than today. What's happened is we launched the so-called war on poverty in the 60s.
I know firsthand about welfare and welfare dependency because of my own life, living 7 years in and out. In the 60s, when they started the social engineering, black family life was relatively intact. 22% out of wedlock birth rates. Today, 72%. They've collapsed the family.
I came from a broken home, but in my day that was unusual. Black families were almost as stable as white families. The black family did not start falling apart until the 1960s, as more blacks were lured into the welfare culture.
In the black community up until 1960s, there was a stigma associated with being on relief.
The legitimacy rate among blacks is somewhere around 70%, and back in the 40s it couldn't have been more than 13, 12%, something like that. Or the breakdown in the black family, 35% of kids, black kids live in two-parent families. And matter of fact, when we were coming up, my father deserted us when I was 3 and my sister was 2, and they ultimately got divorced in the late 40s. But among our friends, we were the only kids in the original housing project that did not have a mother and father in the house. And today would be exactly the opposite. It would be rare to have a mother and father in the household today.
Someone who's strictly irresponsible, either the man or the woman or both, now pays no price for being irresponsible. The taxpayer pays the price. And actually, the harm done to the taxpayers, which is serious, still is not comparable to the harm done to the people.
People who were sharecroppers and rob folks or rob banks and do things like that, poverty was never associated with aberrant behavior. What happened was in the 1960s, and the out-of-wedlock births occurred starting in the 60s with the poverty programs in the welfare state. The welfare state became an invading army into the black community.
This whole notion that we should even have a war on poverty dismisses the fact that individuals have a role in their own lives.
Well, there are actually books that are titled as The Origins of Poverty. Well, the entire human species began in poverty. So I don't know how we say, well, what is the origin of this crap? We go underneath it or something. There's no explanation needed of poverty. The species began in poverty. But what you really need to know is what are the things that enable some countries, some groups within countries, to become prosperous.
We have accepted this narrative that what we see today in Black America is the result of the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow. And what I argue in the book is that what we see today is the legacy of the Great Society, of the legacy of 60s programs that were well-intentioned, trying to help low-income blacks in particular, but had unintended consequences. And today we see the consequences that those policies engendered.
The very people who want this war on poverty are the ones standing in the way of parents having choice in education. The federal government now takes 25% of the American economy, forcing the public square to become a battleground of constant conflict.
76%
Means-tested federal welfare programs alone are $900 billion annually, a quarter of our national budget.
When you think about the civil rights movement, it was a movement to remove governmental barriers. Jim Crow was a governmental barrier. Remove these barriers so that we can educate, so that we can attain economic success. Rather than us continue on that journey to say, okay, we've removed these barriers, now go live free. Many that took up the mantle after Dr. King's death went to Washington sides the movement. And so you started seeing the interest of the community move toward government intervention. When you think about government intervention, not only did the welfare class start to unravel that entire community, the working class started to become addicted to government. Today, the government is the #1 employer of black men and the second largest employer of black women. This should not occur in a free society.
You see, you can't have a welfare state in a democratic country unless you first have a welfare state vision. And when you buy all the assumptions of that vision, then you're buying a lot of trouble.
In 1960, 20% of Americans got more from government than they put in. Today, 60% of Americans get more from government than they put in.
I think any economist would tell you that if you tax something, you're going to get less of it. And if you subsidize something, you're going to get more of it, whether it's wheat, cheese, or slovenly behavior. And indeed, in the United States, we have been subsidizing slovenly behavior. That is, we have been making the cost of illegitimacy or having kids out of wedlock relatively cheap.
And say the government has exacerbated the plight of these poor black. Yes. How? A number of ways. One, they made it difficult to get jobs, to get started in the job market. Minimum wage law would be one of those things, the only one. Terrible schooling would be a major factor. If you're going to turn out kids who are 40% functionally illiterate on graduating from high school, then you're going to have very serious problems in the job market. And the government is responsible for that. The government is state as well as federal. They're doing many things to make it much tougher for the person at the bottom to get started. And they're also making it less necessary to get started by having birth subsidy programs, food stamps, welfare, and so on, which reduce the difference between working and not working. So the general tendency of what they're doing is to make it harder to rise.
When you look at programs, you should ignore their intentions and ask, what is the effect? And I think that the effect of welfare has been devastating for African Americans. You have to destroy, you have to unravel the Great Society programs in order to permit ordinary human flourishing to begin taking place again.
Those programs that have in place reverse incentive, yes, you need to get rid of them. You can't replace a father in the home with a check. It just doesn't work. The government's not very good at raising children. Or being husbands. They're not very good. So yes, the right incentives do need to be in place.
Two things. Number one, we've got to be able to identify who they are amongst us that absolutely cannot help themselves. They have no one, they have no resources. That's actually one reason we should not have the government in this business. They get again next week. I think you still got a few more weeks. Number two, once we've identified them, how do we help? The one with Morgan Freeman, where we can identify that. Well, you empower the charities, local charities. How do you do that? Does government redistribute $700 billion, or do you allow free people to freely give to the charity they most want to?
When you think about it, I mean, centuries of slavery, generations of Jim Crow did not disrupt.
Why is it that we still have this prevailing social vision that seems not only not that, but the results are our fine intentions actually achieving the ends we wish for, but almost refuses to look at the massive evidence to the contrary?
It's counterproductive.
So what's going on?
Partly what's going on among professional politicians is that it can be the end of a whole career to admit that you were wrong. Imagine you're president and you send men into battle in a war and they get wiped out. You say, no, we really didn't have to fight that war. That is not something you're going to say. It's something you're not likely to say to yourself. There'll be 1,000 rationalizations, and the ability of the human mind to rationalize is just phenomenal.
If you can organize a closet, I'm going to show you how in just 5 days you can acquire the skills to potentially earn more than your day job using a free piece of software. Hi, I'm Bill Von Cometti, and over the past 6 years,
this is not part of the
I've
video.
more than 8
Amen. Well, if you can organize it.
You know, if you need organized closets, just let us know.
Yeah.
We can take care of you. But how do you guys feel about that? I know it was a lengthy video, but how do you guys feel about that? And asking that question, I know some of you guys lived through that as well. So for the ones that lived through it, it's just kind of one of those like, okay, how did you guys? I don't want to say what was your experience, but I guess my question really is like, how did it? Because you've seen it firsthand before. You know, I look at my generation. We saw the trickle effects of things that happened after that. But for those that lived through that when that was set up, how did that affect your families or our community within general?
I'm going to tell you this. Don't look at me and ask me, because if you want me to tell the truth, we won't be agreeing on too much. I understand. I see all this. I don't believe it. I think it's a bunch of malarkey. I think it's conspiracy kind of thing to make us think a certain kind of way. Yes, we had some items or government help did help. When those people were really hungry, the ones that were really hungry got fed because they got some of that Reagan cheese. That was good. But there were those that abused it, just like anything else. Because there's good and there's abuse, And I think a lot of it, somebody said something about programming, TV or whatever. Just like they try to program our mind, people say, from the left, they try to program our mind from the right also. They want us to believe that it was, I think, the government's fault that we're in the situation that we are in. We didn't have to leave our families. We could have supported our families. The Bible talks about Israel, and I was just reading about that, how God required the children of Israel to take care of the poor and the strangers in their country. And God punished them for not doing it. So part of I think the problem is not, I don't want to blame the government. I want to blame ourselves for us not doing what we're supposed to do. With the church not stepping up and taking care of people in need. We allow the government to get involved, and bureaucracy and everything like that. It's corruption and all that stuff. That's just a natural part of it. But first we got to look at ourselves. I grew up in a two-family home, and the majority of people that I grew up with, most of them were two-family homes. But what's separated? It's not just the government, our morals, our music, our ethics, and a lot of those things, free sex of the hippies in the 70s and everything like that kind of stuff made a difference. And one thing they said on that, they did mention, I said it they said, the Spirit. Where was the Spirit in all these, where was God in all this? We're looking for man's solution to a problem, I think, that does have some spiritual, things that we need to deal with. But
and that's true because at that time we were living, I was born and raised in Hallville, and most of the people and the boyfriend of the mother was having the daughters, and they just started having children after children after children. But the one thing that we have to take, we as a people have to take, you know, because of the fact that we didn't have to do that. We didn't have to succumb to that lifestyle.
Right.
And because it was not free money.
Right.
What it was separating our people. Like the fathers weren't in the homes, so they was building prisons like they do today based on our children in the 4th grade. They just built that prison out there, the jail and all of that.
Yeah.
They based that on our children at the age in the 4th grade, how many places they should have, how many rooms they should have. Everything was built around us. But we ourselves have to take some responsibility because we were ignorant to some things. And just because you offer me a bone, I don't have to take the bone. I want the meat. You know, don't give me all the leftovers. If you let me work, I can buy my own. But what happens even now, it was so much secrecy. Even a lot of the pastors were having incest with their daughters and the women in the church.
That's right.
All of that, it wasn't like that in the beginning. But it got to be that way because we were looking at them and lost us. Because they themselves were going with taking our women, having children by them, having children by their wives, and it was just a cesspool. And it has not stopped. It has not stopped. And the thing about it is that we're so worried about being like them, even to the point now, even where we want to dress like them. We want to have the long hair down to our knees like them. And here's the problem with that. If you don't set a standard for yourself, you'll fall for anything. Yes. You will fall for anything. I was looking at a program, and I told my daughter, I said, isn't it ironic? I said, we started buying the weave, trying to have the long hair. I say, and then all you see now on TV is women with long hair. All of their hair is not that long. They wear weave just like we do, but they make weave with colors to their type of hair. And so therefore, every woman you see on TV, watch the football game, the announcers, the black gonna have long hair and the white gonna have long hair. We're so easily programmed. Yes. We lose who we are trying to be somebody else. Yes. Even in the movies. You see the white women with their dresses up to here, but the black women, they got all of this bust and all of the, we've lost who we are.
Yes. Amen. Preach, sister.
We have lost who we are. Yes. And our men have got to stand up and pull their pants up and be the men that God created them to be. When I was coming up, the young men wore their pants up, usually up under their chest almost. And they wore their Stacey Adams and they dressed.
Yeah. You know, a lot of what you're saying, for me, we're looking for an explanation or a reason or somebody to blame for the condition that we're in. Yes. That's what it is. The right is giving us, at least these guys, and don't get me wrong, everybody has their opinion, and that's okay. These guys are saying it's the government's fault that the black people are in. No. It's, you know, you know, it's, and some of our more militant black people, oh, it's the white man's reason that we're in the condition that we are. You know who? It's our fault. You look at Reconstruction, when blacks had a similar kind of sense of freedom economic ability and jobs and everything. And look how those black people progressed, bought land, started business, Black Wall Street and everything, you know, at their own cities and stuff, you know. What about that? But you know, everybody's looking for somebody to blame for the situation that they're in. You know, it's the white man's fault. That's a lie. It ain't the white man's fault. A lot of it's your fault. You know, I am really, really, really in tune with what you said about we lost ourselves. Who are we? We make our decisions. We have not set standards for ourselves. We have not held up our standards. Other people have. The Jewish nation or people in America, even the Africans in America, they have their standards, set their boundaries, and conduct themselves like that. And you know, and if you want to have a reason to blame, so maybe I don't know, maybe give us a little play because yeah, poor us, we came over here and yada yada yada, this and that and this, you know. We can't function right, you know, it warped our mind. Yeah, to a certain degree, but it's just like somebody say, well, I didn't have my daddy in my house and now I'm 45 years old and I'm still acting like a big kid. There comes a point in time where you gotta say, okay, that was that, that was then, but this is now, I'm a grown man and I'm gonna stand up and have my own beliefs and values. I don't want no excuse. You know, I'm not looking for an excuse. I'm not looking for somebody to blame. I got a God that's able. What happened to our God? How come don't get mad at me. How come none of those people said anything about God? How come none of those people said anything about our religious values and how we conducted ourselves? How come none of those people said that in the church, the black church, how they supported families or they were supposed to support families? That's not the issue. Just like the pastor said, the things of the world and the things of the spirit, the things of God and how we get them confused. And we look to the things of the world to help and to give us reason and understanding of the things of the spirit.
So I will say this. I just took a business course with the Indiana Black Chamber of Commerce.
Good.
And one of the instructors that came into class was a psychologist. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that he was talking about was, he was like, basically like, we're in a war with racism. Mm-hmm. And he was saying like it's a mental state of it. Mm-hmm. But the one thing he broke down was the leader of the Indiana Black Chamber of Commerce went to a meeting with the state or the city to talk about funding. Now, you also had the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce who was there as well. Mm-hmm. The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce told them to their face, listen, they tried to call them the Brown Chamber of Commerce, and they told them, listen, we will not allow you to colonize us. The lady of the Black Chamber of Commerce looked and she was like, wow, I didn't know I could deter this. And so it's like you say, like, all right, cool, they giving us this, so we feel like we have to take it. And it's like, okay, once we begin to take certain things, now we begin to, this is how we slowly begin to lose our value. So it's just like, all right, cool, now we call ourselves black. And me and Rob had this conversation a while back when we was talking about how the term white and black came into play and when it happened and things like that. And it's one of those, I begin to look at it, it's like, okay, when you look at every other ethnic group that comes to America, we don't have a problem labeling them from their original habitat of where they come from. But when it comes to us, we're black, we're white, they're calling the Latinos and the Hispanics now, they're trying to colorize them as brown. And it's like, okay, if I continue to accept this colorism, I'm now losing what value I had of being proud of who I am. And so I look at for us, like, all right, we've been called African Americans, we've been called Black Americans, we've been called Negroes, niggas, niggers, you know, it's just like we've been called colors, colored, you know, so it's like, all right, we've been called all of these different terms, but yet still the same. Because, I mean, like I said, we can get on civil rights and all of that, which I'm pretty sure we will this month. But I'm just being honest. But when you look at all of that, it's like, listen, every other ethnic group that has come to America has used the fight that we've put up, and they've reaped all the benefits of our fight. So when I look at this, like you say, we got to ask ourselves, all right, what are we and how did we allow this to happen? Like, if you was to check the statistics right now for welfare, now granted, the way they was talking, like, all right, cool, it was the blacks that were on this and he was doing this. If you check your statistics, it's really the white folks that's really on this. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's not
They
that
didn't
I'm,
say that though, did they?
I'm just, but they don't want to tell us that. So again, it's like, all right, we accepted certain things that pushed us back, but I feel like we've also fought back from that as well, you know? And so it's just one of those, I feel like, yes, in the Jim Crow era, you did have your Black Wall Streets and this, and we do have to accept that, okay, they were bombed.
Yeah.
We understand by who. Just didn't nobody else come and bomb America but America. So we have to understand, A, that as we begin to thrive, it was shut down. It was destroyed. We know who it was destroyed by. But I also look at it as, like, just because it was destroyed doesn't mean that we can't continue to rebuild it. So again, like you said, we have to hold ourselves accountable.
I want to say one other thing. I went to South America. I went to the border, Brazil. And you know you have to have your passport and all of that. On my passport, it said American. It does not say Negro, black, nothing. It says American. That's my right there. I haven't been to Africa, so I can't contest. But anyway, and the person that I went with, their passport said Black American. The woman, she looked at my passport and she looked at theirs. She smiled and talked to me in English. She said something to the other person that was with them in their language, and they looked at the passport of theirs, and they stamped it, and they just looked them up and down. But she had a conversation with me, because mine didn't say African American, mine, it didn't say black. My passport says American.
I want to look at
And
that.
they treated me differently.
Yeah.
They treated me differently. And I just wanted to pass it along that I won't allow them to say African American, because I'm not an African American. I am an American. I was born here.
I agree. I feel like the basis of these videos, y'all, is to try to break down because I agree with what you're saying about the black. I don't refer to myself as African American. I've never been to Africa. I don't, so I'm not African American. I'm not black. I'm just an American. I'm an American male. But the issue is with these videos, what they're trying to break down is why we need to stop with the black and the white thing in general in all aspects. Now that doesn't mean to forget where we came from. I don't consider this a right or a left leaning. What they're saying is there was a time when there was 2-parent households.
Yes.
You grew up in a 2-parent household. You say you grew up in a 2-parent household. Most of the people, I'm not, that are a little older than we are, grew up in a 2-parent household. Tim, did you grow up in a 2-parent household?
I did not.
Rob, did you grow up? JW, did you grow up? That cannot be ignored. Did you grow up in a 2-parent household? For a few years. Me too, for a few years. That cannot be ignored. You can blame racism, you can blame welfare. That cannot be ignored. That happened. That happened. We have to figure out why it happened. And like you guys were saying earlier, a big part that we had to acknowledge is why do we want to be accepted so much? That's a big issue. As far as we're talking about the hair, we want to be accepted. Even how we're called, we want them to stop calling us black. Call me black, I don't care. I know I'm not black. So whether you call me black or don't call me black, it won't matter. I feel like the issue is we want to be accepted, and we take what they give us, and then we complain about what they've given us, when like you guys said, we never had accepted in the first place. So I feel like the issue, what these videos are talking about, is we need to stop being dependent on acceptance and be who we are. And I feel like that's what we are kind of saying in different ways, but I just want to tie it together.
Well, and this is my thing with that, with the African American term, right? A part of me feels like, yes, did the slave trade happen? Yes. But I don't believe that we were all brought here as slaves. A part of me, and I'm just being honest with that, because all right, all of y'all probably learned in school, they probably stopped it now, but Columbus discovered America. Well, if you notice now, in the past few years, it went from Columbus Day to Indonesia's Day. And so it's one of those, it's like, okay, when I begin to look at certain artifacts that we find in Africa, and then you go to Mexico, you go to this country, and you see these same artifacts that, you know, look like us, from pyramids to all these